Wednesday, June 12, 2024 is exactly the 31st year that Nigerians went to the polls to elect a new president in the third republic of the country's democratic journey. That presidential election was the first since the 1983 military coup that swept away the Second Republic politicians. In the Third Republic, there were only two political parties, the Social Democratic Party SDP and the National Republican Convention NRC. The candidates in that election were the African business mogul Chief Moshood Kashima Wolawale Abiola, who was the SDP flag bearer, while the opponent was Alhaji Bashiru Tofa, who was the standard bearer of the NRC and a business tycoon from the northern part of the country. At that time, it did not matter to Nigerians what religion or region the two candidates on the ballot paper hailed from, as the SDP candidate with his running mate were both Muslims.
Now why for this life, oh, now so palava. I tire for this problem, I tire for life, oh. Guinea, no work, no food, no house, no life. This small water then they bring, now so dirty they pull am. This small money I they get, now so transport they chop am. School low, now headache, hospital no work. I tire for life, oh. My brother, waiting you they think, oh. My sister, help don't come. SDP, MKO, Kingibe, action. MKO, Kingibe, SDP, progress. Abiola na the hope, SDP na the party to solve our problem and better our life.
At the end of the election, MKO Abiola was said to have won over 8 million votes, winning in 19 states, while his opponent, the NRC candidate Tofa, received over 6 million votes and winning in 10 states. Out of the over 14 million total votes cast, Abiola won almost 60% of the total votes cast, making him the winner of the election. Compared to previous elections which were marred by massive fraud, violence and intimidation, the June 12, 1993 presidential election was peaceful and credible. The presidential poll was adjudged the freest and fairest in the history of elections in Nigeria. Unfortunately, the election was annulled by the then military government led by General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, when already the results had indicated an overwhelming victory for Chief MKO Abiola of the SDP. There was an outcry in Nigeria over the annulment of the election and for the injustice meted out to the winner of the polls. The pressure was too much to bear by the government under General Babangida, who was forced to step aside for Chief Ernest Shonekan, a man from Abiola's native land in the present-day Ogun State. Chief Shonekan then took charge as the leader of the national interim government. Chief Shonekan's government was short-lived as his administration was toppled in a military coup d'etat on November 17, 1993. General Sani Abacha, a one-time Chief of Army Staff and Secretary of Defense, took over as the new head of state. Abiola continued with the struggle to reclaim his mandate without success. Abacha's reign was high-handed and many political personalities who wanted Abiola to be declared winner of the election were arrested and imprisoned. Some had to flee abroad for fear of being killed by the government. The presumed winner of the election was then thrown behind bars after declaring himself president of Nigeria. On June 8, 1998, General Abacha died. He was succeeded by General Abdulsalami Abubakar as head of state. The new government set in place modalities on how to grant Chief Abiola freedom, but he mysteriously died on July 7, 1998, the day that he was to be set free from incarceration. The recognition of June 12 as Democracy Day is also to honor those who fought for the cause and struggle that led to the termination of the era of military rule in Nigeria. Apart from those who were full-time politicians and activists, there were also students who played significant roles in fighting for democracy in the country despite the toughness of the military.
I'm I'm surprised and I'm shocked and it's still unbelievable. I can't believe it.
I can't believe that type of story. Yes, that he happened.
The Federal University of Technology in Akure was one of the rallying points for student activists at that time. In 1993, FUTA was a 12-year-old, relatively young university. Regardless, every single radical national organization such as the Campaign for Democracy, the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, etc. all had their active student wings or branches in FUTA. This also meant that the operatives of the military junta would maintain an active undercover presence in FUTA to keep their eyes on the budding student nationalists. This led to the arrest and detention of 4 students of the university who were initially alleged to have been involved in hijacking a plane in October 1993 in protest against the annulment of June 12 election. The first set of arrests was that of Adeagbo, Kweminu, and Ariyomo. Each student was kept in solitary confinement with daily sessions of interrogations. The trio was only released upon the ceaseless intervention of the university's then Vice-Chancellor, Professor Albert Ilemobade, and senior management staff, A.W.O Attoye. 31 years after Pa A.W.O Attoye, elder statesman who was the Deputy Registrar of FUTA during the event and who was directly charged with the mandate of securing the release of the 4 FUTA students activists, reminiscences over the dark days of military rule and the conditions of detention of the young FUTA students. He revealed the tightrope walked by FUTA leadership and the proactive measures of the school management to ensure that nothing untoward befell any of the students, as had happened in the case of some other pro-democracy fighters across Nigeria.
Some of our students, like other students in other tertiary institutions in the country, were in the vanguard of the protest. It's their life. The youth always have more energy to dissipate in times like that. What I wanted was to assist them out of the detention. Then I was Deputy Registrar as well as the Student Affairs Officer at that time in FUTA. So the onus was mine, both as an officer and as my schedule, and as a father and as a Christian, to see what we can do for them to be released. I liaised with the registrar. I was next to him at that time. And with the late with the VC, they are both late now. Lemobade as VC and Bayo as registrar. That's a private, secured place, but that's a terrible place to go. It's a place we should not go to. It's worse than a hospital. I got there now. Since I came there as an officer of the university, whoever was the policeman or soldier that was there, gave me my due respect. And I recall that they said, since the university was interested, they were going to release them, but they will be on the watch. Every protest in any country is usually an affair of the youth, because they are the ones that feel it more. The NSAS thing is still very fresh in their memory. Most of them were youths. Whether they understood or not what was being fought for, they were there in the vanguard. That was the same thing that these young people did in FUTA and other places in the country.
We were educating them. We were mobilizing them to understand what democracy is about. And that military rule was in itself first anti-democratic, 2, something we needed to fight. And our students were just as militant as we were. Together we raided so many parts of this Akure Township, Ondo, Owo, then even Ekiti, having demonstrations, distributing pamphlets, pasting posters, and mobilizing the people. So FUTA was very, very active. And when these young men, of course, we rallied around our lawyers. We had lawyers locally, we had lawyers in Lagos, and we all linked up and we said, okay, help secure the release of these people.
A.W.O Attoye could also remember Tunji Ariyomo, who was then in 100 level and has now become a famous engineer as a member of the then FUTA Students Anti-Military Rule Resistance.
Then and after, he became an advisor to the immediate past governor. Yes, Agaguya, both of them. Yes, all he wanted was justice. He was seeking to protect the future of the youth of the country. Yes, I remember him very well. I can see his face now, very fair. He wanted justice, he wanted fairness, he wanted security for the future of the youth of the country. As a matter of fact, this was what all of them will say to you. We want our future secured.
Tunde Ibikunle was arrested separately and was released much later after suffering extensive academic deprivation. Yet, investigations revealed that FUTA students were not part of the plot in any way, but had their names corralled onto the suspects list because of the institution's burden fervid. It was just to frame up the young boys for fighting for democracy by addressing students on campus and also practicing campus journalism across students' congresses across the country.
Those who are hijackers were not those who were talking about. The hijackers were angry about the system. They took their own decision. They were actually not part of the pro-democracy movement, but they found themselves up. And out of youthful exuberance, they took their own decision. They should not have been dealt with the way they were. Nigerians ought to have thought that these young boys, and that is the essence of youth. You are daring. They are innovative. We needed to challenge and channel all that they were doing to the right way. Knowing that their fathers, I'm not doing their direct fathers and mothers, were the ones who are running the country aground. And they wanted a change. But see where we are today. Many of our young people, where are they? Jackpots.
Tunde Adeagbo's true offense, for instance, was strong support at students' congresses for concerted protests by students against the annulment of the election, while Ariyomo's offense was starting a daily anti-annulment barrage of campus journalism to sensitize students to their power to remain in defiance of the illegal annulment. Their courageous response was surely disconcerting enough for the military junta to zero in on them with a trumped-up charge that they were part of a plain hijack plot.